Good evening. Good evening. You should never start eating right before a live stream. And I just did. I'm having a piece of chocolate. I got it from Croatia. Dark chocolate with apricots. I love it. It was the last piece I had, too. How are you tonight? How are things? Every once in a while on my end, I get like everything goes black. And I don't know if it's just on my end or if it's all over the world or. So you should probably tell me in the comment section. Let me know what's going on. I can't tell. It's 5:00 on a Saturday night, and you're watching me. Sweet. I appreciate that. For those of you who don't know who I am or what we're doing, my name is John Schenk. I'm the founder and managing broker of Deerwood Realty in St. Louis, Missouri. Small residential firm. Concentrate mostly on helping buyers buy homes and sellers sell theirs. Been doing it for a while. I think more than a decade. Not proud of that. Should be further in life. But anyway, yeah, that's what I do. What do you do? It's always good to have like an ideal audience member. I say that a lot. Like I'm supposed to know exactly what everyone would want to watch. And then as long as I figure that out, then everyone would watch it. And I would be a famous YouTuber. A famous YouTube realtor. Sorry, just getting the last bits of the chocolate. It was very, very good. Let's talk about that for a minute. I was looking at Google and I was like, who are the top real estate agents on YouTube? And there were lists. There were actually lists. And I was like, well, are there any people that I know? There weren't any people that I know. And then I was like, well, what kind of subscribers can we be looking at? There's some people that got some really high subscriber counts. I'm very happy for them. I don't have very high subscriber counts, but the subscribers I have, I love. Thank you. Seriously. I know a little bit why I don't have a huge subscriber following. One, I'm not a big fan of like being a corporate shill. I'm kind of against the grain. I'm a contrarian by nature. Maybe an outsider. I think definitely an outsider. For instance, a lot of the realtors now are down in Florida, or they were in Florida this weekend for the National Association of Realtors. I didn't go. I don't feel bad about it, but I don't think I'd be that much fun to hang out with even if I was there. It's not my, like, believe it or not, today I'm live streaming here at 5:00 because I'm looking forward to having dinner and then watching some television tonight. And it's not going to be television. It's going to be YouTube. It's not like I'm looking forward to going out and going to a restaurant or I'm going to a party or I'm going to, no, I just want to rest. I'm tired. So anyway, that's one of the reasons why I don't think I'm there. I haven't done a very good job of self-promotion. That's a failure on my part. And when you define my audience, they're just from all over the spectrum. So it's like, if you're a real estate agent, are you watching me? Well, maybe. If you're what? I don't know. I just don't know. But hey, we talk about real estate trends. We talk about the market. We talk about, awkward interactions with me as a real estate agent. And then we try to figure things out. So that's who I am. That's what the channel's about. It doesn't look like I'm ever going to get to where some of these other people are, because I'm never going to do that video like, 10 reasons to sell your house. If you've got to read an article to know when you need to sell your house, you've got more problems than I can solve. Here we go. I don't know how far in today we're in because I don't have the timer up. So that'll be good. I do know I have sound, but I'm going to check though because of the famous non-sound episode, the mute episode. Okay, it says I have sound, so we'll go with that. I'd say put F in the chat, but I don't know how many people are here and I don't know how many people are interacting in the chat. So that's no good. I might be talking to myself. I don't know. I have no idea. Anyway, let's go on to the first topic. And I want to present this in a certain way to you, maybe as a story. So let's just say you have a home buyer, okay? And their personality leads them to want to know everything. Like always be in charge, always be in demand, always be number one. This attitude comes oftentimes from people in engineering. I have not noticed it in tech. But anyway, the way that works is they want certainty on the entire deal. Okay, so what they want is like when you buy a house, they want to pay a certain price, okay? And then they want to know the day of closing, okay? And they want to know that the sellers are going to fix everything they want, and they want to know that if they want something, the seller's just going to go ahead and bend over and give it to them. That's what they want. But sellers don't think that way. Sellers think like, hey, this person wants to buy my house. My house is wonderful. I've lived in it for many, many years. And if you think that my house is not perfect, well, then you should go somewhere else. Oh, you want something extra outside of the contract? Go away. And so, as in real estate agents, on the buying and selling side, you're stuck in the middle of these two people that are two groups that don't really agree and don't have the same philosophy going into things. And I've just noticed that it's very, very hard on people. And it's it's understandable. It's meant to be hard on people. Let me take you. The contract itself is not a real estate contract. Is not a fun document. Let me take you through an example. This is something that I've seen on multiple deals. Let's say you agree to get something fixed, okay? But you're not in charge of it. A municipality is, as a seller. How do you honestly give the buyer a closing date? And you could say, well, we could put it in escrow. Do you really want the deal to go on longer than when you own the property? No, you want to get it done. But you could be your intentions could be absolutely pure and you would not have a good closing date. Let's go through another scenario. Let's say you're a buyer and there's some let's say well the contract in St. Louis gives you for the most part 10 days to conduct any inspections you want. Inspections, okay? Then you have 10 days to come to an agreement most of the time on what the seller and buyer are going to agree to. Now, look, here's the deal. The sellers don't have to agree to anything. They can just say, no, not going to fix anything. And then the buyer has the option of walking away with the return of their escrow money. Okay. That's just the way it is. It gets dicey when like you find something wrong and you want to have estimates for it because now all of a sudden you're out of contract. The inspection window is closed. And now you're sitting there trying to get estimates on a property that you don't own. And so what happens is the seller either has to grant you that, which is a concession, or you're just going to get more and more angry. But that's the way it's set up. If it wasn't set up this way, you would have buyers inspecting things the whole contract, the whole time, and changing the terms of the agreement over and over and over again. So I know exactly why it's there. And if I'm a seller's agent and somebody says, and the buyer agent says, hey, we want to have unfettered access to the property before closing. I say, you know what? No. I don't want to. And we don't have to. I'll see it closing. So this whole thing with concessions, this whole thing with, you know, maybe you should treat each other respectably. Now, here's something that I would say is not a respectable way to go about things. Let's say I'm a seller's agent and we're in the hottest market that we've ever seen. Okay. And you agree to buy a house as is. Okay. And you get your inspections. We allow for that. But there's no negotiating on the repairs. And so then rather than you as the agent call, you have your office assistant or closing coordinator call and say, "Hey, we want a concession for the roof." Let me tell you how that's going to go. Not well. It's kind of like, "Hey, read the room. Hey, figure out, have a sense for what the other side is going to go for before you make the ask." That's how it's always been. But if you take people that aren't typically doing real estate deals every day, they get very, very upset at some of these things. And I understand. I totally get it. I totally get it. Like, for instance, if you just if you're in any service-based industry, okay? Let's say you want to call up, let's say, like I'll give you an example right now. We're gonna shift into something that's driving me nuts. I love my car. It's not the best car in the world. It's my car. It's a 2005 Subaru or 2015 Subaru Outback with the 6-cylinder boxer engine in it. I love it. I've taken it to Colorado. I'm sure I've taken it to Florida. I've taken it to South Carolina. I love it. I've been to Wyoming in it, I think. I don't know what the state is north of. No, I don't think I made it all the way, but I went through the Northern Pass in Colorado. I mean, I was way north for me. Okay. Been to Chicago in it. Love that car. So by extension, I want the car treated the best. I want it treated well. It's like a pet. So when I take it to a shop and they put in like parts that are from China that aren't the OEM parts, and they're not, they're charging me more than what a normal part would cost. That doesn't make me happy. It also doesn't make me happy when I take the car in and it doesn't start, so I have it towed in. Then they fix it, and I drive it for about a week, and then the car goes back in the shop because it won't start. And then they tell me that they fixed it, and then I take it, and then I go out to start my car today, and it doesn't start. Like, and we talked about character flaws last night. One of my character flaws is I'm loyal with everyone. I mean, like, if I do business with someone, it's like very, very, and the flaw is I expect that same loyalty back. It doesn't. I mean, that level of loyalty comes down. I would say it comes back to me maybe 10% of the time. So what do I do? I mean, it's uncertain. Do I take the car back to the same person that's tried to fix my car twice and failed? And you would say, well, you know, what difference does it make, John? I mean, it's not that bad. Your car, they'll find it and they'll fix it. It'll work out. But the problem is I keep needing to go places and I don't have a car. And I'm a real estate agent. That makes things very, very crappy because you need to be able to see where you're going. Like, you need to be able to go there. You need to be able to have a car to do that. You can't just borrow the wife's car. Can't just borrow somebody else's car. You have to have a car. And then, even then, like, I guarantee you when I take it to the shop, they'll be like, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. We will fix this. Okay. And that's what I want. I mean, that's that's where that's where I run into trouble. I'm more than happy to take a car someplace. And if they miss on the diagnosis, then they don't charge me the second time or the third time. I'm okay with that. I'd be really mad if you charged me and then never fixed it right. But then, on the third try, you start to think maybe they don't know how to fix my car. Maybe it's not possible for them. Maybe there's no one in the whole shop that can fix the car. But anyway, it parallels real estate, especially in residential sales. For instance, let's say you want to get a bathroom done or bathroom remodel. Who are you going to use to do your bathroom remodel? You're going to go with the cheapest one? What happens when the results are not exactly where you want them to be? or what you were envisioning. You know, the same thing with this issue that I've run across. If it's outdoor work and it rains or snows, they can't work outdoors. How are they going to give you a concrete day on when it's going to work, when it's going to be done? And I think when I was younger, I wouldn't believe that things wouldn't go well. I don't know why. Just didn't accept it. But as I'm older and I watch things, I often don't. I don't even have any faith it's going to turn out right in the first place. I mean, maybe that's a negative view, but boy, I mean, I see deals all the time that are messed up because the people involved, they say stupid things and they do stupid things. Where you could have had a deal. So very, very frustrating. What do I recommend people do when going and looking to buy a house? I think I would say just don't believe everything, that you hear about how it's going to be perfect and wonderful. There's times when it's very, very stressful. It's very, very stressful to put out an offer and then um, have to wait 2, 3, 5, 7 days before you get an answer. That sucks. But you're not in charge of the process. All you can do is put forth your offer and see what happens. And that's, something that a lot of buyers can't handle. And that is, as the buyer, you're always in the negative. You're always, at the end of the day, you're not running the show. The buyer chooses to go with you, or the seller chooses your offer. They can choose to not take your offer. They are in the advantage. Even in a crappy market, you can write an offer and you can say, let's just say there's a house that's $300,000, and you walk through and you say, well, that's not a $300,000 house. It's a $350,000 house. Like, let's write up the offer. So you write up this offer. I'm sorry, $250,000 house. So you write up this offer and it's like, we know that you've listed it for $300,000, but you're wrong, Mr. Seller, Mrs. Seller. Here's an offer for $250,000, and when can we move in? Seller can just flat out say, I don't like your offer, and I don't even have to respond. They can just literally not respond, and the offer will expire. It's the way it is. People don't like uncertainty. People like to believe that things are perfect. It's fascinating to me to watch when those types of people get stuck in a real estate deal and just flail around angrily. It's like, I want to help you. You need to know this. So, and then taking it a step further, is it possible that you could have a deal that is very, very difficult, that doesn't go well, and your friend have a deal that goes perfect? And the only difference is the agent doesn't tell you anything about the deal the entire way and just pretty much runs right through it and just doesn't say anything? Oh yeah, it's definitely possible. It's definitely possible. I value the communications between myself and my buyers and my sellers. I value that relationship because I feel like when things do get nasty, and they might, at least we have some common ground from which we can retreat to. But if I didn't like that, I could literally not talk to my buyers after the inspections. I could not talk to them until the walkthrough or closing. I mean, and just assume everything's going well. And then if it doesn't go well, just be like, oh, don't know anything about it. Sorry. And I think some people want that. I try to keep people informed the whole way. I tell people what I'm thinking. I can't do the work for the buyers in the sense, like, I'm not the one buying the house, but these are the things that I've seen other people deal with. This is how I've seen them deal with it. This might be a way for you to move forward and get some sleep. That's who I am. So I don't know. Just wanted to share that. The idea of not knowing everything in a deal is not unusual for an agent, but it makes buyers absolutely miserable. Second thing I want to talk about, I was watching, am I failing at YouTube? I don't know that I'm failing at YouTube. I'm not doing well. Not doing as well as I'd like. And so I'll watch videos about YouTube and getting better because I want to get better. I want to have my subscribers and I want to, talk about real estate. I'm fascinated by it. All the different, it's such a huge part of the GDP. And there's all these things about it that are quite fascinating. And so anyway, I was watching this guy, and what's funny to me is this one fellow is like he used to be a minister of like a newfangled church. Like they build these new churches and everybody goes there and it's like Christianity light. Not as an offense. If you go to those churches, that's great. Because if you try to go to a regular old church, those don't work either. They've sold out long ago. So he didn't make it as a pastor. He was dead broke. So he started a YouTube channel, and I think he just started vlogging basically. Okay. And then he found like a niche, and his niche was helping YouTubers grow. Okay. So then he sold like products associated with helping YouTubers grow. And then now when somebody wants to write like in the search bar, like, hey, how do I grow my YouTube? It's this guy. Not going to say which one because I don't want to kick anybody. Or it's his group. He's got a bunch of people working for him now. But it's all this, it's evangelism. The whole time it's like, hey, you should do this. You can do this. We can move forward. And I'm not annoyed by it because I know what's going on. I see it. But I'm fascinated by it as well because again, like I'm at 114 subscribers. I know some real estate agents that are over 60,000 subscribers. What the hell am I doing wrong? It's like, so yesterday it was fascinating to me. He put out a video, 10 reasons why you should start a YouTube channel now, I think was the title. I've already started my YouTube channel, so why would I watch something like that? Well, I was just trying to figure out like maybe there's something I'm missing. So one of the points that he made, and the point that I'm trying to stay with is he says, think about your channel as like a digital vlog. Like, so when you die, your kids can literally watch, they've got a vault and they can see who you were over time. Now, I think his children are younger than mine. My kids don't want to watch me. They don't care what happens to me. And I don't think they even want to get to know me. I think they're just good with like, I exist to pay bills and help them through things, which is fine. They're at that age, right? So, but it resonated with me in this sense. Last night, I was beat. I was beat. The real estate world had won. I just wanted to stop. I wanted to get off the train. And I was in a situation where you do the right things and you still get the wrong results. It's like, frustrating. Woke up this morning and I was like, not better. I had I'll tell you, I had real hopes for today. I planned on a lot of stuff and it didn't go like I thought it would. Even now, I was hoping to stream at about 1. So, yeah. But the idea of using the time for me as a bit of a journal or as a bit of a personal, record, I think is good. And I'll tell you why. I know I've gotten better at the YouTube since I started. A lot better. I know I'm not, the best creator out there, but I also know I've gotten better. But, to go back to last year and see like just how different the marketplace was. And so if there's anything I could bring to you on that is like, look, like this whole YouTube trip and this whole real estate agent trip and it's a journey, and there's highs and lows. And, you know, last night was not a high, but it's you cannot dwell on the negatives all the time. You can't dwell on like, oh, this person never called me for their listing. Oh, this person's mad at me for this. Oh, if I don't get this done, they're going to do this. Like all the fear, all the anxiety, all the sadness, all the trepidation, you just can't dwell on it because every day is a new day. So my channel, to watch it, is literally me going through every day of real estate. Some days are good and some days aren't. Now, I reject something kind of fundamental in real estate, and that is when the market's hot, okay, we're usually talking about sellers are able to sell their homes for good prices. We don't normally talk about how the buyers in those situations are probably not in good shape. We never look at it from the buyer's perspective. And so I do look at it from the buyer's perspective because I want to help. You know, if you want to buy a house, I want to be able to help you kind of frame the market. But a funny thing happened to me. I guess 3 days ago, I was talking to somebody. I had sold their house 3 years ago, and he was not like, "Hey, thank you for selling my house." I hadn't talked to him in a long time. He was like, "Man, if I would have done this, this, and this, I think we would have gotten more for the house." And I was like, "I remember that deal, and you should be thankful you got what you did because that house was terrible." But you know, it fits in with, what do you remember about your real estate agent or the deal itself 4 or 5 years later? You don't remember everything. And so it's like the parts that you do remember, what are they and why? You should put that in the comment section or the chat. I'm sorry. What do you remember about your last real estate deal and why? Why do you think you remember that over something else? I'm intrigued. But so today, am I up? Am I happy? Well, I mean, from the minute I woke up today, I had one issue after another pop up that was not positive. So, and now I'm kind of beat. I didn't enjoy it. So anyway, by the way, when I do this, see how the camera focuses it'll always focus on the thing that's in front. And I could change that, but I don't want to. So just deal with some of the fog every once in a while. It's such a big, I mean, the other one was small. This thing's a monster, but I never have to worry about getting another microphone. So kind of happy about that. You ready to get into the stuff? Let's look at our first article. And here's how I want to present it to you. I want you to know that I understand the idea of second chances. I also feel like I have a pretty good grasp of what would be considered reality. First of all, do you know who Elizabeth Holmes is? She was supposed to be the next Steve Jobs. She was convicted of fraud in a court of law. I think she did. I think she had a huge fraud, and I think that as we go on down the road, you're going to start seeing more things become fraudulent because the cash is going to be expensive, and when you have to commit fraud, you have to pay people money so that they don't notice that you're creating, that you're a fraud. And so as that gets more expensive, I think that the people that are committing frauds right now are going to eat it, and then we're going to see it. I don't know the details of the FTX thing, but I do know that fellow is supposed to be in the Bahamas, but his plane is in Argentina, and there was a hack and all kinds of millions of dollars disappeared. I mean, it's not looking real good for that guy. Sam, whatever the hell his name is. Anyway, so this was before. This was before that. This is new. This was the latest fraud. And I just want to go over it with you because I just it's a question. It says Elizabeth Holmes has asked for 18 months of house arrest to avoid going to jail for her Theranos fraud convictions, reports say. Now, this is a woman that stood up there and lied and lied and lied. People invested their hard-earned money, funds invested their money, and it was based on a faulty premise that she knew about at the end of the day. It says convicted Theranos founder Elizabeth Holmes has appealed for leniency of an 18-month home sentence as she awaits sentencing. So she's like, yeah, I did a bunch of wrong things, but can you be lenient? Like, can you not throw the book at me? An 82-page filing seen by the Associated Press and Bloomberg reportedly shows that she asked for a lenient sentence under house arrest, which came alongside more than 130 letters from Holmes's friends, family, investors, and former employees who lawyers had said showcased the real Elizabeth Holmes. Well, I bet if you look at who came to our defense, I think there'll be a pattern. And then also, can you imagine? Like, I wake up every day in fear of being sued, out of business, or being put in jail. This. I mean, I live in fear of this. Am I doing anything shady? No, and that's even worse because now prove that you're not comes into play. Anyway, this lady, she just kind of said, okay, well, I am going to do all these things, and if I go to jail, oh well, I have enough money to get out. I can afford the best lawyers. I can do whatever I want. And so it says lawyers for Holmes, who was convicted in January on multiple fraud charges, told the U.S. District Judge Edward Davila that sending her to prison was unnecessary after being stigmatized by intense media coverage that had turned her into a character to be mocked and vilified. So what they're saying is she doesn't deserve prison because everyone's making fun of her for what she did. What does that have to do with what she did? We acknowledge this is a tall order given the specific perception of the case, especially when Ms. Holmes is viewed as a character, not the person. The filing said per the notice. Now, let me just put it to you like this. Do you really think this woman who's worth probably more than $1 million, okay, on a bad day, do you really think that she doesn't have like PR people still working for her? And do you really believe that she didn't have she couldn't have PR people plant stories? Do you really believe that's the case? Now, did I say that she specifically leaked these requests for leniency? I don't know. But I think that if you're a lawyer, you should be smart enough to know that now you fight the case in the court of public opinion. Prosecutors are expected to pursue a much harsher sentence for Holmes, who faces up to 20 years in prison on each of the 4 counts in which she was convicted. So 4 times 20 is 80 years. The Fed could ask for 80 years, 80, and she's asking for 18 months in her home. It just seems like there's a very big difference between those two spaces. Let's continue. Holmes shot to fame after dropping out of Stanford at 19 to found the blood monitoring health tech company, which once attracted a $9 billion valuation. It came crumbling down after the Food and Drug Administration began investigating reports of major inaccuracies in the company's testing, reinforced by a 2015 report by this fellow, which was that was real journalism. I'm proud of that man. Holmes was convicted on 4 counts of fraud-related charges linked to investments made by hedge fund manager Brian Grossman, the DeVos family, and former Cravath attorney Daniel Mosley, with the jury failing to reach a verdict on 3 other charges. Sunny Balwani, her former partner, was separately convicted in July of all 12 counts of investor and patient fraud. I think it's patient fraud, but it can't be patent. It's got to be patient fraud, which he was originally charged. So her strategy was, even though she was the face of the company, it's the dude's fault. Blame the Indian dude. But I want you to see a different side of the article. You'll notice, see how she's nice, like she's got her little hair out and it's not pulled back. She's not wearing all black anymore. She doesn't talk funny. Um, she's not acting anymore. It says Elizabeth Holmes prosecutors seek 15-year sentence and $800 million in restitution. Theranos founder faces maximum of 20 years in prison. This says a maximum of 20 years in prison after she was found guilty. So they're saying not 20 years for each count. They're saying 20 years total. I'm just reading 2 different articles, and maybe I don't read well. But the point is here, she's got 800. I said she might have more than $1 million. They think she has at least $800 million. I mean, do you know what kind of lawyers you can afford for that? The same kind of lawyers that have, caused her to look this way. It's better for her. She's the poor young girl that didn't know any better. It was all the Indian dude's fault. Federal prosecutors are asking for a judge to sentence Elizabeth Holmes to 15 years in prison and require her to pay $800 million in restitution. Now, I think what's probably going to happen is she's probably going to go to prison and she's probably going to get pardoned by the next Democrat president. I just think that's what's going to happen. Maybe even this one. Why? Well, look at the campaign donations to Theranos, or from Theranos. Ain't too hard to figure out how that's going to go. It says the jury found Holmes guilty in January of 4 counts of investor fraud and conspiracy. Her sentencing is scheduled for the 18th of November, and she faces a maximum of 20 years in prison. So we're going to hear about this now, and then we're going to hear about it on the 18th, and then that's probably the end of us hearing about it. It will go away. The story will fly into the sky, never to be seen again. It says prosecutors argued that considering the extensiveness of Holmes' fraud, the recommended sentencing would reflect the seriousness of the offenses, provide for just punishment for the offenses, and deter Holmes and others. Well, I don't think that she is going to be deterred. The question is will she be able to, pick herself back up should she want to? Holmes' lawyer argued in court in documents filed on Thursday that the ex-Theranos boss should not be sentenced to prison at all. Yeah, what did she do wrong? I mean, she just defrauded people of, billions of dollars. But, hey, it's just money. Remember, this is something that I've disagreed with forever. The idea that your property, doesn't have some value. Oh, it's just property. It's just money. It's yours. If we don't have private property rights, then what are we doing? It says the court filings argued that Holmes had been made a character to be mocked and vilified. She is a character to be mocked and vilified. And let me tell you something. If you were at her company while she was in charge and you stepped out of line and stopped drinking the Kool-Aid, you would have been mocked and vilified on your way out the door. Though she is a caring mother and a friend. Oh, what does that have to do with anything? Because you're a mom, it's okay to defraud investors? Because you're someone's friend, it's okay to defraud investors? And you say, well, it's not okay, John. It's not okay. It's just she doesn't deserve the harsh punishments of someone who isn't a mom and isn't a friend deserves. This is a problem for me because, well, I mean, seriously. It says Miss Holmes is no danger to the public. She was, though. She was a significant danger to the investing public. She has no criminal history. That's not true. She actually is a criminal. That's why she's being sentenced. Has a perfect pretrial services compliance record, so she showed up to court on time. That's great. And is described by the people who know her repeatedly as a gentle and loving person who tries to do the right thing. Uh, Again, look at how she's been made over to be a different person than the one that was the all powerful just 5 years ago. Ms. Holmes will never be able to seek another job or meet a new friend without the negative character acting as a barrier. Well, why should she work? If she has $800 million in personal wealth, okay, and you take that away, I guarantee you she's got 3 or 4 million laying around. Pocket change, which would dramatically improve the lives of most Americans. Why should she get another job? What's the point? She made her money. And the way she made her money is what's got her in trouble now. Included in her lawyer's court documents were letters from family and friends attesting to Holmes's character and asking for leniency. Among those who wrote on her behalf is the Democratic New Jersey Senator Cory Booker. And that's all you need to know about my belief that she will eventually get pardoned. Who wrote a letter dated in September that he considers Holmes a friend after meeting her at a conference in 2016. In the years since, I've always been struck by the way our conversations focused on her desires to make a positive impact on the world. I still believe she holds on to the hope that she can make contributions to the lives of others, and she can, despite mistakes, make the world a better place. She can do that all from a prison cell. Write letters. I don't know. Holmes rose to fame as the 19-year-old founder of Theranos, a company that claimed its technology could conduct tests with just a drop of blood. Theranos ballooned to a valuation of $9 billion. It had a good story. It's how these real estate companies that blow up and are huge do it so quickly. They have a good story. Key to the fraud is the good story. Okay. With the help of big name investors and board members, and Holmes found herself once boasted, and Holmes herself once boasted a net worth of over $4 billion. Like, we're not talking millions, we're talking billions. And I'm supposed to feel sorry for this person. I literally can't go outside right now and start my car. It doesn't start. And I got to worry about this. During the trial, witnesses said that their concerns over Theranos' technology had largely been ignored, and that Holmes and her then romantic partner, Sunny Balwani, who was the company's company's chief operating officer, retaliated against employees who spoke out. Okay. Let's go through this again. During the trial, witnesses said that their concerns over Theranos' technology had largely been ignored, and that Holmes and her then romantic partner, Sunny Balwani, who was the company's chief operating officer, retaliated against employees who spoke out. Now, is this the same person that is described by the people who know her repeatedly as a gentle and loving person who tries to do the right thing? Holmes argued that Balwani, who was 19 years older, was emotionally and physically abusive during their relationship, influencing her behavior as Theranos' leader. Balwani himself is convicted in July of 12 counts of fraud and is due to be sentenced in December. It wasn't me. It was that guy, Sunny Balwani. I my 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 reason for bringing this up, other than it was a Google Trends article, was, look, who deserves leniency and who doesn't? How do we determine this? And are you kidding me that this is the best you can come up with for someone that deserves leniency? You literally, if you're the lawyer for her, you're saying she's already suffered enough. Let her, how much, let me just ask you, is this relevant? What is her home worth right now? What is her home worth right now? How much equity does she have in her home? Like make her live in a home that I sell, in South St. Louis. That's like $100,000. That would be, that's the issue. You're saying that this woman deserves jail or doesn't deserve jail. And her home is nicer than probably 90% of the United States, the people of the United States. It's ridiculous. You have to pay off people a lot of money for them to argue this on your behalf, because this is ridiculous. But I don't know the answer. It's very easy to excuse me. It's very easy to rip on someone else. It's like walk a mile in their shoes. But I just think that people in the United States see the pattern. Okay, they see the pattern of fake it until you make it, commit as much fraud and break as many laws as possible to get you to where you want to go. And then you've got all that money, and with all that money, you can afford a good attorney, and it won't be so bad. At the end of the day, you'll be fine. You'll still be sleeping on a pile of money. And then my belief is like, okay, well, then they should send a message by, just throwing this lady in jail and forgetting the key. But I don't think that the law should be about sending messages. But you certainly see lawyers advocate for it all the time. We're going to send Alex Jones a message by suing him for more than $1 trillion. As silly as that is. Okay. We're going to send a message that you can't do this in America. And so I reject the notion that we should send a message in this case by, doing anything more or less than what would be required under the law. It certainly isn't 18 months in your house, in your mansion. Okay. I'm done with that. Let's move on. Oh, I just need to do this. Here we go. Lance Lambert to start things. I don't, on the weekends, there's less news. So we get like provocative Twitter. And that's what we got tonight. So it says, this is from Lance Lambert. He works for Fortune magazine. And this is a quote from Goldman Sachs. It says, although home prices peaked at different times across the G10, they are declining at a similar pace of around 15% annualized from their respective peaks in New Zealand, Sweden, Canada, Australia, and the U.S. Relative to the U.S. G10, U.S. home prices peaked later. That being said, the pace of home price correction is similar. So to me, okay, I'm going to take the opinion that, or I'm going to take the idea that, look, when I was growing up, there was a saying, and this was the saying: when the U.S. sneezes, the rest of the world catches a cold. And while we are not the most dominant economy anymore, thanks to our political leaders running our country into the ground, both Republican and Democrat, bought and sold for by China, even then, we still command quite a bit of the world economy. And based on that, it seems totally rational and reasonable for me to believe that whatever happens in the United States will have an effect on the rest of the world, even now. So these asset inflation, when people say inflation's happening all over the world, so we shouldn't be concerned, it's normal. It's happening in the United States, and then it's cycling around the rest of the world. It's because of the United States. You don't have to agree with me. You can argue I'm not there, but I just want to point this out, that this is what I think is happening. I don't know, put it in the chat if you think differently. I'd love to hear your opinion. Kira Mason, I actually tweeted back at Kira Mason today. It was on a different topic, but it says, I thought this was good. It says, after almost a week of negotiations, I just put my buyers under contract at 6.3% below asking price. The house was out of their range and they didn't want to go see it at first. I encouraged them and said the door was open for low offers. They fell in love, and here we are. I think you are going to see, I think that will be the trend that you see. And it should happen that way. I often take people, like we said, first of all, I never take houses to people that they can't afford. That's stupid. I just won't do that. Like, it's got to be like, say you're approved for a $250,000 loan. Let's not say loan, but a total of $250,000. I'm not going to show you a house for $325,000. That's just cruel and unusual, and I'm not doing it. Cruel and unusual punishment. I will not do it. So, with that being said, I will, if we go to a house and we like the house, I will often say we could make an offer. It won't hurt to make an offer, especially if they have no other offers. And I know that on the seller side as well. So like I tell my sellers, we want to get this thing sold relatively quickly. And if we can't get it sold relatively quickly, we have to be open to the fact that we may not be able to take we might not get a higher offer. So it just depends. I don't think I think this is the exact correct approach. The only thing I would say, and this is something that I'm concerned with in my own, being open. If by chance the other agent is reading this, now all of a sudden they're like, you got me. You you negotiated over me. You won. I don't know. Maybe it doesn't make sense. Anyway, I think this is the way to go. I think that's a good real estate agent. Put your thoughts in the chat. Okay, here you go. The broke agent, they're supposed to be funny. They are funny. They write funny things. It says, dear buyers, if you hate the house, you don't have to tell us everything you hated about it in the driveway for 40 minutes after you already spent 40 minutes telling us everything you hate about it while we were inside the house. I don't have that. I don't have that. I think sometimes I'm more critical of my buyers. And I don't like, I don't know. I don't like standing outside talking when this day and age we have cameras everywhere. It's just like, I don't like to throw shade at people and their houses that they've listed for sale. I mean, they've worked hard to be able to afford a house and then to be able to sell the house. It's just like, it's not for me. I feel like all of my buyers, when we go through houses and I show them like things to look out for and how this all plays out in the marketplace, I feel like they're very well informed, and then I don't even need their feedback. And I mean, they know exactly what I think. They know what they think. And then, do we want to make an offer on this house? If so, what would be the number that we make the offer? I mean, based on all the homes we've seen, is this the house that makes the most sense at this price, or what price does it make sense at? And let's go from there. But, outside of my live stream, I don't talk that much. I mean, so I wouldn't even know. You wouldn't catch me sitting on the driveway for 40 minutes after a showing. It just wouldn't happen. 5 minutes, maybe, but 40, no. we may talk about other things, pets. I like dogs, I like cats, but we wouldn't be talking about how bad the house was. Housing bubble disrespecter. Now, this is a thread. Going to go through it. When it comes to starter homes, the highest and best use will always favor landlords. This thread, okay, is something that I've wanted to highlight. Okay, it's a concept that I've wanted to highlight for years, and I've never been able to put it into words. And I sure as hell wouldn't have thought to put it in a quote tweet or a tweet thread. But let's go through it, and then we can, we can back off. So whenever it comes to starter homes, the highest and best use will always favor landlords. Take a home in a basic Phoenix neighborhood. If you were to ban short-term rentals and long-term rentals in that neighborhood, those homes would be selling for much less than with a long-term rental or short-term rental option. They'd have no net present value beyond the value to an owner-occupier. Bidding wars would only be between 0 zeros, which would be owner-occupied. So 2 O's, owner-occupied. Now look, this is correct. And to some large extent, the home price gains we're seeing is because we allow short-term and long-term rentals in residential areas. It's not that I hate Airbnb. I've gone to an Airbnb, love them for the most part. But this is an issue. It says you're not bidding against somebody who values the home as a $10,000 a month cash flowing short-term rental business asset. We need to incentivize landlords who build new units or rehab previously unlivable spaces and disincentivize competing with owner occupants for existing dwellings. There's all kinds of creative ways to help improve the market. Housing Ralph, who probably disagrees with the rest of this thread, mentioned on a podcast the idea of waiving cap gains for landlords selling to an owner occupied. A great incentive since landlords hardly pay taxes anyway, LOL. The only thing I don't agree with is when you want to incentivize landlords to build new units or rehab previously unlivable spaces and disincentivize competing with owner occupants for existing dwellings. So I don't know that you want to incentivize landlords who build like new apartment buildings. And then I'll tell you, people would not be happy. Like you're gonna incentivize a billionaire developer or a millionaire developer. How dare you? People are starving. I mean, but I just want you to understand that with the short-term and long-term rental, it makes the valuations screwy, and that's a problem. It's a real problem, and it's one that I don't think anybody's really on top of, because how would you fix it? Like, just as an example, okay. Let's go through this. Don't make fun of me. You will, though. I'm going to do this. Okay. Let's say I don't have a lot of money. Okay. Let's say my credit's good. What do I do? Like, how can I use my money, the little money that I have, to make it in the world? Well, I can leverage that money. Well, how do I leverage that money? Well, I could leverage it. I could probably get a new car. Okay. So now I get this new car. 10 years, the car's worth less than half of what I paid for it. That doesn't seem like a good asset to be leveraging. Buy a house. And here's the thing. If you're a millionaire, you can buy a house that's worth $1 million. No problem. If you're not even close to a millionaire, you can still leverage, as long as you can make the payments, a home. It's the exact way to step into the world of, leasing and property rental. You can leverage your assets to buy a second home. It's not a bad thing. It's not bad. But once you had short-term rentals, it used to be the statute of fraud in Missouri said you had to sign a 1-year lease. I suspect it still does, but people just kind of work around it. Work around it in the sense that, like, oh, if there's damages and you're on an Airbnb, then they're going to take your security deposit and that's it. There's no court remedy for the most part. That's my guess. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not giving legal advice. But man, when you the valuation gets screwed up when you rent out property, because all of a sudden now it's like, oh, it's bad. It's just bad. So if you, put it in the chat, put it in the comments down the road, if you ever have a solution to this problem. I mean, banning all short-term and long-term rentals in the United States doesn't seem like the best way to go, but also discouraging owner occupants from being able to live in neighborhoods strictly because they're all rentals also isn't a good. We have spaces in the in St. Louis that are all rentals, and those property values aren't high relative. It did not work the way you would think. It became like a slumlord area. We don't want that. But nobody's using Airbnb to stay there either. No one's doing that. Anyway, Darth Powell. This is not a parody account of Jerome Powell, but definitely out there just kind of throwing bombs. If you bought a house you really couldn't, we need to focus. If you bought a house you couldn't easily afford and lose it to foreclosure, you aren't losing your home. You're returning the house to the person who should have owned it in the first place. So that's the bank. Do you believe that? I'm not. Is there some truth to that? They call it house poor. Is that what it's called? When you buy a house that you can't afford and now you can't do anything else. My college roommate bought a house, a brand new house. And I went over there. It was a story and a half. And it had a massive living room and family room. And they couldn't afford the furniture for the two spaces for years. But they didn't know. They were just out of college. So anyway, like if you take this and you add it to the housing disrespecter, you get this like you just reading it again. If you bought a house you couldn't easily afford and lose it to a foreclosure, you aren't losing your home. You're returning the house to the person who should have owned it in the first place, which would be highest and best, which would be the investor. Is that really right? I don't know. Diane Swonk, chief economist, KPMG US. She wrote a big old thread today. I don't want to read that, but let's just do this one. Housing has always been an asset and is the largest asset that the overwhelming majority of the households hold. I think you may be asking about speculative aspects of housing, which is especially important for an asset class that people need for basic shelter. If housing is, and the person wrote, if housing is becoming an investment asset, isn't that bad? Between investors and home buyers, whose interest should government and Fed policies be focusing on? I don't have an answer. I don't understand. Like, I don't understand how it is. Like, obviously, I'm biased, but my own belief is, you know, I just explained to you how you do the real estate game. Like how you buy your first property, how you hope that it increases in value over time. I just did it. That's real estate speculation. That's exactly what that is. And I know of no way, like what did the banks lend on that produces money, that produces income? Car does not, you're not going to see someone get a custom car for like 6 figures and have the bank finance it. Not going to happen. What is that asset that works that way? Where can you get that leverage? I mean, you can buy, and to be fair, it's not my cup of tea, but you could buy stocks. You do have a margin account. There's, to me, that's dicey. But in some ways, I don't think we want all of the investors, all the speculators, all these people out of single family homes. I just think that the balance right now is shifted over to the investor class, to the detriment of the owner occupant. And I think we should take steps to try to maybe balance the playing field a little better. Now, I'm saying these things, and you should come at me with, John, give me a concrete example of how, give me one concrete solution that will solve this problem. And that's fine. I don't have one. We got some articles. I thought that'd be fun to go over. I like to go over articles, real estate commentary, 10 headwinds the real estate market faces next year. I'm going to go through these a little bit quickly because I don't want to keep you guys too much. You're probably getting dressed to go out tonight. As an annual report from the counselors of real estate identifies the most pressing topics that could have long-term consequences for housing. Well, let's see what these are. I don't need to read the whole thing. Inflation and interest rates, will they affect real estate in the next year? Yes. Geopolitical risks, will they impact real estate? Yes. So of these first two, okay, this could be true during any year ever. Hybrid work models, also not that surprising. Supply chain disruption, that one is a new one, and that to me it's my belief that the economy is not humming on all cylinders because you can't get supplies. That's just frightening. Energy, I don't know about that one. Labor shortages, I don't know about that one. Housing imbalance, there is a housing imbalance. Regulatory uncertainty, absolutely. Cybersecurity, I don't really know about that. ESG requirements, I hate ESG. It's terrible wrong. Terrible wrong. It needs to be banned. Really, really bad. This is a really big problem. FTX has a higher ESG score than ExxonMobil. How'd that work out? I hate it. ESG investing is terrible. Should be stopped immediately. If you live in a state where your pension funds are being, being used in ESG funds, call them and say no. Call the attorney general and say, nope, get us out of this. Terrible, terrible plan. Moving on. I thought this was kind of funny as an agent. Let me see what you think. Okay. Broker pulse. Leaders see opportunity in the market. Focus turns to agent productivity. Okay. Do you know how insulting that is for an agent? Like, do you know how insulting that is? Okay. So we've just been through a very, very busy time, a very stressful time as an agent. My gosh. Do you know how many houses I showed before I could get an accepted contract somewhere? And now I would be there on the weekends, all nights. I mean, it's just crazy. And now you're going to tell me I need to be more productive because the market's going down. It's no longer easy money. Who are you? Who are you to tell me that? What do you mean by productivity? Are you trying to say that I'm not good enough as it is as an agent? It says real estate leaders surveyed for the Real Trends Broker Pulse are increasingly pessimistic about the market through the end of the year and into 2023, with 66% of all respondents predicting that home sales will be down more than 5%, and 48% noting that home prices will be down more than 5% as well. Look, if houses go down 5%, you won't even notice it. That's number one. And number two, like, you have to understand that the real estate market is what it is. You're going to have good days and bad. I could do very well in a bad market. I could do very bad in a good market. I think I proved that in this last one. It says, however, it's so the narrative to me is, oh, now that we're not as busy, you need to be more productive. However, regardless of what happens in the market, brokerage owners are looking to beef up market share, hone in on providing value, and increase agent training, improve productivity. The Real Trends Broker Plus requests surveys from 19,000 real estate brokerage leaders around the nation on market trends, broker opportunities, and challenges. Of the 175 completed surveys, so they sent out 19,000 and they got back 175. 29% were from the Southeast, 21 for the Southwest, 23 from the Midwest, and 17 from the Northeast, and 10% from the Northwest. Weird. Okay. It says recruiting high producers and increasing productivity remain key. Despite the pessimism around house prices, home prices, and sales, some 37% of all those surveyed were neutral about the next 3 months, and 33% were optimistic. Well, they're just crazy. It's likely from leaders who immediately made changes to operating budgets and clearly outlined how they would find success in today's market. Part of that business outline, increasing per agent productivity, is key for many brokers who also mentioned it as their greatest challenge in the survey. So we really want our agents to be more productive, but it's really, really hard. RE/MAX and EXP both cited recruiting more productive agents. Recruiting better agents is a lot easier than making more productive ones in-house. And helping current agents boost their transactions were key initiatives in 2023. We're training our agents on dialogues regarding the actual stats in our community, which we've extracted from our MLS for each town by month and quarter this year. Months ago, we updated social media, web pages, and marketing materials to handle today's changing market. We're also training agents on how to ask for referrals from past clients and customers with thank you notes as well, and well wishes, which is something we do annually. So it boils down to literally doing the real estate business. That's broker productivity. That's agent productivity. Just doing the regular real estate business. It says many of the leaders surveyed are excited about the potential that comes with the slower market. This is such garbage. Such garbage. When asked about opportunities brokers plan to leverage, comments such as reducing fees to squeeze out competitors and recruiting agents from traditional models, increasing mid-tier agents into higher producers, supporting and growing teams from 50 million and up, and creating a second referral company for agents to hang their license without incurring MLS and other fees, aggressive recruiting, rolling in smaller brokerages, expanding globally, and developing a company lead program for higher margins per deal were other strategies mentioned by leaders to capture market share. It says whenever it comes to challenges, the survey rules is that increasing per agent productivity is the biggest challenge. That hasn't changed from last quarter. However, the challenges that moved up the list include keeping agents motivated, reducing operational expenses, and competing with new business models, likely the low fee and flat fee model. When things are down, you may, I don't know, the flat fee model is what it is. I don't really care. I'm not doing it. A brokerage owner with 50 agents questioned how he can retain agents who choose to leave for a less expensive business model. People stay because they believe there's a value. Then in Florida, the woman agreed. We ask our most loyal agents, what is the most valuable thing to you today? And we ask this frequently, what do they like and what do they value? In the form, she told the audience how she met with one agent who told her he was leaving for more money, but they were actually lowering his split, but giving him a bonus. So I did the math with him. He stayed. That's because it's not always about the money, but when it is, you must be able to articulate the intangibles that you offer and not just split. I know of an office in St. Louis. I'm not going to tell you the brand or anything like that. The people in the office, the average age might be 90. When you ask one of the ladies, like, why don't you come work for me at my brokerage? They'll be like, but I like the coffee here. They literally do. They literally go in every day. They all know the contract backwards and forwards because that's all they talk about because they're not doing any business. And they drink coffee. And they like the coffee there. What are some other challenges? That's always good to know. Increased regulation, interest rates, and inflation. How you put those three things together is silly. Those are all challenges, but they're all individual, not one. Keeping agents motivated. Like if an agent isn't motivated, it's not on you. That's not your problem. Pressure on margins. Well, I mean, you can fix that. How? How can you fix that? Don't offer so much. There, solved. Look at Compass and what they're saying they're going to do with their splits that aren't going to increase them. Reducing operational expenses. What's so expensive for your operations? Difficulty recruiting, 5%. Competing with new business models, 5%. Retaining agents amidst increased competition, 5%. Restructuring office space, really? Increasing market through M&A, mergers and acquisitions, I suspect. Increasing capture rates on ancillary services, 0.71. I don't know. What's my biggest problem? I'll tell you, my biggest problem is keeping the doors open. It's the only thing I worry about. It's not like I want to have bigger margins. It's not I want to have more agents. It's not I want to feel, better internally, be a better producing agent. No, I just want to keep the doors open. I don't ever want to make a decision that makes me have to close my doors. Does that make me a weird person or unusual? I don't know. That's the way I look at things. We're on our last article. Some of you are like, thank God. Some of you are like, sad. This came out of NBC, but I was seeing like whispers about it in other places. Let's go through it a little bit, and if we find it interesting, we'll keep going. It says evictions are piling up across the U.S. as COVID-era protections end and rents climb. Okay. Eviction filings have been increasing since the spring in many places, and the problem is expected to get worse in the coming months as federal rental assistance runs out. Well, it may. Maybe there shouldn't be federal rental assistance that's that significant a part of the economy. And I'm not trying to be a jerk, but I'm just saying. On a recent Friday morning, more than 100 renters facing eviction filed through Arizona Judge Anna Huberman's court in what's becoming a typical day for her as a wave of evictions hits Phoenix and other cities large and small around the country. The vast majority of the renters that day had missed their October payments a few weeks earlier and were now at risk of being removed from their homes within days. One woman said her rent money that went to pay for her mother's funeral. A daycare worker said she didn't get paid for 2 weeks when her workplace was simply shut down due to COVID. And another man said he started a new job and had yet to get to his first check. These are all real American problems. This is not unusual. What's not a real American problem is Elizabeth Holmes and her desire to stay in her mansion and not go to prison for the things that she did. That's an American story, but that's not what real people are dealing with on a daily basis. Eviction filings have been on the rise and were above their historical averages in half of the 1,059 counties tracked by Legal Services Corp, a federally funded legal aid group, during either August or September. By the way, I hate the NGOs. I'm convinced NGOs are a cancer to society. The problem is expected to get worse in the upcoming months as federal rental assistance money runs out and people are unable to keep pace with rising rents and decades-high inflation, according to interviews with more than a dozen housing advocates, government officials, and industry experts. That's exactly right. This hidden, horrible tax on income in the way of inflation that has been put on us by the political party. I mean, you basically, when you print checks, okay, you lower the value of the money. That's when you hand out checks, that's what happens. Now that rental assistance is over, now that the local moratoriums are over, we're playing catch up to what the pandemic did. And my biggest fear is the cliff that we've been all anticipating is here. From here on out, it's going to be a very, very difficult time, said Tim Thomas, a research director at the Urban Displacement Project at the University of California, Berkeley. I don't want to be a doom and gloom person, but we're probably going to see about the worst of what's about to happen. That's kind of being a doom and gloom person. During the first year of the pandemic. Now, by the way, you cannot blame the pandemic for the evictions. The people have to have income to stay somewhere. Okay. And if you say that your COVID kept your income from working, what are you doing about that now? I'm putting it out there. It's not because they're no longer fixing the COVID problem. That's not the issue. These people are in the wrong spot. And let me try to explain that. I don't want to be cruel, but look, if your income is $1,000 a month, let's just say, okay, and your rent is $975 a month, okay, one of those two things has to change. You either have to find rent for like $200 a month or a job with income of higher. That's the way it is. It's not for the government to bridge the gap or to get you in a better place than you can afford. I'm sorry that might come across as harsh, but that is a problem. And you say, well, John, we can't. I mean, the rents are going out of control. We can't afford it. Well, that's why wage growth has to accompany inflation, or else it's just we're all screwed. Which is what the government isn't going to fix it by giving you more rent money. The federal money that began running out in many areas this summer, and the Treasury Department estimates less than $7 billion out of the total $46.5 billion remains available, removing the last lifeline of pandemic-era protections that more than 7 million renters have relied on. It's just, it shouldn't. Don't. The struggle to find affordable housing comes amid wider anxiety and pessimism Americans have around the economy, which voters have consistently ranked as a top concern ahead of next week's midterm elections. A CNBC poll in October found just 16% of voters believe the economy is excellent or good, and 59% of voters expect there will be a recession over the next 12 months. I'll tell you, the voting patterns didn't seem to indicate that people being broke or the economy was the number one issue. Despite a relatively strong job market and historically low unemployment, nearly 7.8 million Americans said they were behind on their rent in October, and 3 million felt like they were likely to be evicted in the next 2 months. That survey found 2.5 million people had experienced a rent increase of more than $500 over the past year. Which, I mean, even if you raise the rent $25 a month, you're going to be over $500. With the what was it? I'm a little slow here at the end of the day. I'm sorry. Here, we'll do the exact number. So if you raise the rent $50, you're going to be over $500 a month. It says the increase. Oh, yeah. So with inflation and massive increases in rental prices that we've seen over the last few years, it's much worse for low-income renters than it was before the pandemic, when we were already in an affordable housing crisis. That's right. That's right. I agree with that. 100%. Why? But why were we having an affordable housing crisis? That's what I'm trying to stay with is, look, if you're a millionaire, inflation doesn't really bother you, so you can't buy another Porsche. If you're a low income person and you're fighting inflation, this is killing you. You are screwed financially because your wage growth isn't going up. You're not keeping pace with inflation. You're going to work and you're going to have less every time you go to work. It says the increase in rents has begun to slow inflation, overall economic uncertainty of more people holding off moving, according to analysis by Redfin. Still, rents nationwide were up 9% in September compared to a year earlier. And more than a dozen cities had double-digit rent increases. In Phoenix, which has been a hotbed of iBuying, for example, rent increases have slowed in recent months, but June were up 24% year over year, with a median asking rent of $2,261 a month. In Maricopa County, which includes Phoenix, evictions are at the highest level since 2016, with more than 45,000 filings. Now we're at the end of the year, so I don't really. Lately, it just seems to be that's all we're doing. And then they go to a story. Now, here we go. Zenobia Johnson is one of those Phoenix renters who's been struggling to stay in her home because of rising rents. She said she missed her rent payment at the start of October and received an eviction notice from her landlord just days later. Now, look, if you're a property manager and someone doesn't pay rent, The eviction process takes time. They're already not paying their rent. You need to go ahead and file that immediately. This is proper uh, property management. She borrowed money to cover her payment, but is now unsure how long she will be able to make November's rent. How she will make November's rent with the income from her telemarketing job unable to cover her bills. This is key. This is a key story. The woman has a job, or man, let's see, her home. So it's a woman. She has a job. The job isn't paying the rent. It doesn't cover her bills. She can go get a second job. A second job is not reflected in the employment numbers. And so I think that many people are getting second jobs because they have to. And even then, they're going to have issues. Last month, her car was repossessed because she'd been prioritizing her rent over her car payment. It says everything has gone up. I just can't keep up. The single mother of 2 young children, she said, she was not sure what she was going to do. This is a typical story. It doesn't matter if it's COVID. It doesn't matter anything. It does matter that we have this inflation problem, and not many people are doing anything about it. You say, what can you do about inflation? Well, stop printing money. I have other ways you can do it, but I don't want to get thrown off YouTube. Phoenix area has some of the highest inflation in the country. Ugh. With prices up 13% in August, including a 14% increase in food and 19% increase in housing costs. While the price of gas has fallen below $4 a gallon in most of the country, it still averages above $4.50 in Phoenix. But why did the gas prices fall there? And what's going to happen when we can't continue to drain the strategic reserve? What's going to happen then? One region that has seen the greatest increase in housing costs is Oklahoma City. Rents are up 24% in September compared to a year earlier to an average of $1,260 a month. Rents have been going up in part here because of a growing number of large out-of-state real estate investment firms buying up property in the region and raising rents, and a lack of affordable housing for lower-income families, local advocates said. Until we're able to better match wages with housing costs, evictions are going to continue to be a problem because with rising rents, people are having to stretch their budgets even more, said Sabine Brown, a senior policy analyst at the Oklahoma Policy Institute. One medical bill, one car repair can quickly push someone towards an eviction. This is exactly right. Until we're able to better match wages with housing costs, evictions are going to continue to be a problem. You can also say until we're able to better match wages with inflation, evictions are going to continue to be a problem. In Oklahoma County, which includes Oklahoma City, evictions have been steadily on the rise this year and are more than 40% above their pre-pandemic levels. With more than well, look, what if there was, let me just ask this question. What if there wasn't COVID, but we still had inflation? Would the numbers be similar? They're humans and their families with children, and this is Oklahoma, the heartland, so to speak. It's chronic here, just like it is in places where people seem to think that this is where these actions happen, but they're happening here too. They are humans, families with children. I get that. It's chronic. I agree. This was a problem before. Inflation and the Rona. Even areas seeing less dramatic increases in rent are seeing a rise in evictions as pandemic era protections end. But you don't need pandemic era protections. You need policies that actually work for the poor, the working poor, which there are millions of working poor in the United States. Good people doing the right thing. Not Elizabeth Holmes. Not Elizabeth Holmes. And that's why it's so disgusting. Good people doing the best they can with what they've got, losing their homes, losing their cars. And this woman, fraudster, thinks it's okay to just stay in her millionaire mansion and not go to jail. Wow. I'm talking to a lot of people who are just now getting back on their feet and getting back to decent economic footing. I hear a lot of people saying they just need a little more time. I'm going back to work. My husband or wife is going back to work. We're going to get it back to where we are. We just need a little more time. Well, what happens when the inflation spiral causes job growth to stop and then reverse? Who gets hurt fastest? Is it going to be the millionaires? Nope. The same people who aren't infected or aren't affected in any way by inflation, other than they can't buy a second Porsche. In Minnesota, it's not just a problem isolated in major urban centers, but also rural and industrial communities where housing costs have been on the rise as well. In Clay County, a working class community across the straight line from Fargo, North Dakota, the number of eviction filings in September were 3 times where they were before the pandemic. About half the county's 60,000 residents were having to spend more than 30% of their income on rent. And see, that's the problem. They've got jobs, they're not paying well enough, and we keep having policies that hurt the worker. Always hurt the worker. Both parties. No, the old status quo is not a normal one to return to. No one should want to return to a normal where eviction is too often seen as a first resort, not a last resort, where there's little mediation and where the overwhelming majority of tenants have no counseling or representation at all. Oh my God. Sperling said that more affordable housing is the long-term solution and the struggle renters are facing, but that's a goal that will take time and additional funding from Congress. Always we need more money. Literally, stop the regulations. Okay. There's thousands and thousands and thousands of regulations on building a home. Stop NIMBYism. Stop those two things. You'll have plenty of houses. There's no question that long after the pandemic is over, scarcity of affordable housing will be an issue that causes pain. See, but that's not it. It's not that there aren't enough houses. Okay. There aren't enough houses at the prices the workers can afford to pay. And why is that? It's because our economic policy is just terrible in the United States. Terrible. I'm not reading anymore. I'm done. I don't care. All right. Well, I'm done. I was going to quit at 6. It's 6:30. I overran my time, but hey, it's been fun. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. I might stream tomorrow afternoon. I have a couple showings. We'll talk about them. I'll talk to you later. Have a good night. Enjoy yourself. I'm out. Peace.